The pirate carrier Vraxel's pride drifted through the dust fields of the Coran expanse, its hull a patchwork of burned scars and shoddy repairs inside. Alarms bleated as the crew dragged their latest prize down a grated corridor, an unconscious human. Wrist tie, a fresh bruise blooming above his eye. Captain Coran Vraxel, a towering insectoid whose mandibles clicked with greedy satisfaction, scuttled beside them. A human, he hissed, his voice like grinding metal. Finally, the Terran Union pays obscene ransoms for their kind. Their sentimental unity is very profitable. The pirates cackled, a chorus of guttural, glitchy chirps, but inside that seemingly unconscious human skull, Evan Mercer was wide awake. He was listening. He was waiting. Humans had a reputation across the galaxy, durable, unpredictable, and inventive to the point of absolute irritation. But there was one thing only those who had fought them firsthand truly understood. Humans never give up control. They just wait for the right moment to take it back. Evan felt himself being shoved into a cold storage cell. The energy bars crackled to life, sealing him in. The pirate's heavy footsteps faded down the hall. The lights dimmed. The carrier thrummed with the slow, steady heartbeat of its warp engines. He opened one eye, a smirk playing on his lips. Idiots, he muttered into the silence. As usual, they had underestimated him. The pirates had checked for weapons. Of course, they patted him down, scanned his clothes, but they hadn't checked the lining of his boot. He carefully slid out a thin strip of carbon tensile filament, wrapped tightly round a microconductive rod. He bent it once a faint spark confirmed it was. Live, perfect. He jammed the filament into the energy bar's control panel. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. The bars flickered, sputtered, and died. Evan stepped out casually, stretching his arms over his head as if waking from a long nap. All right, he said to the empty corridor, let's get this over with. He didn't sneak. He didn't crawl or hide. He started walking with the quiet confidence of someone who owned the place. The Vraxel pirates were a textbook example of organized chaos, lots of yelling, lots of stomping, but very little actual awareness. It was almost easy. Evan slipped behind a stack of cargo crates, ducked under a moving conveyor belt, and shimmied through a maintenance hatch that was definitely not designed for a full-grown human. But motivation is a powerful lubricant. He dropped down into a hangar bay, landing with a soft thud. And there it was. A sleek shuttle. It was compact and ugly, but it looked functional. That's all that mattered. He started towards it, until a pair of glowing yellow eyes appeared in the shadows ahead. A guard, a big one, built like a reptilian tank. The brute blinked, its scaly head tilting in confusion. Prisoner, it growled. Evan didn't miss a beat. He pointed vaguely over his shoulder. Yeah, they said to bring me to, the interrogation room. The guard's brow furrowed. There is no interrogation room. Evan snapped his fingers. That's the one. The no interrogation room. Super secret. Top level stuff. The guard hesitated, and that hesitation was fatal. Evan lunged for the nearby hatch controls and slammed his palm down on the emergency button. A heavy blast shield crashed down between them with a deafening clang. The guard howled in frustration, pounding uselessly against the reinforced metal as Evan climbed into the shuttle's cockpit. He cracked his knuckles. Time to steal a spaceship. The controls were old, which was good. Humans have a special talent for old tech. He rewired to panels, ripped out a useless safety mechanism, and bridged the ignition circuit with the same filament from his boot. The engines roared to life. Instantly, alarms blared across the entire ship. Evan winced. Welp, so much for subtlety. The hangar bay doors slammed shut, locking him in. He just grinned. Cute. He throttled the engines and gunned it forward, not at the doors, but at the wall beside them. The shuttle punched through unreinforced metal with a horrific screech, tearing itself free from the carrier's hull. It spiraled out into the dust fields, trailing sparks and a stream of very colorful pirate profanity over the comms. Evan wiped a smudge of soot from his cheek and leaned back in the pilot's seat. Step 1. Escape. Step 2. Profit. Hours later, on a chaotic salvage world buzzing with shady deals, Evan strolled into a pirate broker's tent. Minutes later, the Vraxel crew stomped in, screaming about a stolen shuttle and a missing prisoner. Evan casually pointed a thumb at the very same shuttle parked just behind him. "Oh, that one? Yeah, I've got it for sale. I can even offer a discount for the previous owners." Captain Vraxel's mandibles froze mid-rage, clicking in stunned silence. Evan leaned in close, a predatory smile spreading across his face. "You kidnapped the wrong human." The tent went absolutely silent. Captain Corin Vraxel's mandibles twitched, his antennae curling inward like he just couldn't process what was happening around him. His entire pirate crew just stared, their eyes darting between Evan and their own stolen shuttle, looking like a herd of confused animals trying to figure out fire for the first time. Evan broke the silence by drumming his fingers on the counter. "Look," he said, "I've already got 3 interested buyers lined up. If you want it back, you'd better speak fast." The captain's mandibles clicked furiously. You dare steal my shit?" "Human," Evan just shrugged. "Steal is such a harsh word. Let's call it liberated from negligence." A few of the alien merchants nearby snorted with laughter. Nothing gets a market crowd going like seeing pirates get a taste of their own medicine. Still fuming, Vraxel lunged forward, towering over Evan. "You will return it for free, or I will, Captain." Evan held up a single finger, cutting him off. "Before you finish that threat, you might want to check your pockets." Vraxel blinked, confused. He reached down, patted his belt, and then he froze. Evan casually wiggled a small datapad he'd lifted from the captain right in the middle of their argument. "Looking for this one?" Evan asked with a smirk. "The one with your bank authorization codes on it? And all your personal holo notes, including that very heartfelt love poem you wrote to someone named Scotty CHK." The entire tent erupted into laughter. The captain's mandibles flapped open, his face a mask of pure horror. "Give that back," he screeched. "Sure." Evan tossed it casually in his hand. "Right after we settle on a price." It took a full 20 seconds of trembling, furious silence before Vraxel finally dragged out a pouch heavy with shimmering credit chits. "Half price," he growled through gritted teeth. "And you will never speak of this again." Evan grinned. "Deal." The pirates dragged their battered shuttle out of the tent, utterly humiliated. Scuttling away like oversized roaches, Evan watched them go, hands on his hips. Honestly, he muttered to himself, I'm doing the galaxy a service. But business on a salvaged world never stays quiet for long. A deep, gravelly voice rumbled from behind him. You handled those Vraxel well, human. Evan turned to see a massive, stone-skinned Gorati broker leaning against a rusted engine block. The guy was easily 3 meters tall, built like a mobile boulder. Thanks, Evan replied. They're not exactly criminal masterminds, that is true. The Gorati grunted. However, they hold grudges, and they have many friends. Evan sighed. Of course they do. The broker nodded toward the crowded bazaar entrance. They will return, with more numbers. You should leave before they do. Evan thought for a moment, mind pointing me to the nearest shit auction. The Gorati let out a laugh that sounded like grinding rocks. That way, human. Try not to cause too much more chaos. No promises, Evan called back as he walked away. He spent the next hours browsing ship inventories, haggling with mechanics, and almost bought a stolen ice hauler before realizing someone had replaced the entire engine core with a sculpture of a very sad-looking bird. He was studying a compact scout cruiser when the marketplace alarms blared to life. He didn't need to guess who was causing the commotion. The Vraxel pirates stormed back into the bazaar twice as many as before, armed with rusted rifles, shock staves, and more anger than common sense. Find the human, Captain Vraxel roared, his voice echoing through the market. He humiliated me. Nitrogen monoxide 1 humiliates me. A vendor hiding behind his stall whispered to Evan, "Is that true? Did you really humiliate him?" Evan nodded. "Absolutely. Nice." The vendor muttered with a grin. The pirates fanned out, shoving merchants aside, knocking over stands, and roaring about revenge. Evan watched the chaos unfold from atop a stack of crates. They really don't know how to move quietly, do they? He thought. He pulled a small, salvaged remote from his pocket, the key to the pirate's shuttle, which he had quietly modified. He grinned. Time for round two. He pressed the first button. In the distance, the shuttle's alarm system went off, blaring loudly. All the pirates turned toward the sound. He pressed the second button. The ship spun in place, firing its thrusters blindly and sliding across the landing pad like a drunken metal penguin on ice. Vraxel screamed in fury. "Stop that ship!" Evan pressed the third and final button. Boom. A harmless, but incredibly spectacular cloud of bright pink foam erupted from the shuttle's vents, coating the entire pirate crew up to their mandibles. They started flailing and screaming, slipping and sliding all over the landing platform. The crowd of onlookers burst into applause. Even the bizarre security officers were laughing their heads off. Evan hopped down from the crates, dusted off his hands, and called across the chaos, "Hey, Captain, you want a refund?" The captain screeched something untranslatable and charged through the foam. Right at him, Evan sprinted, but not away. He ran toward the hangar control tower, because Evan Mercer didn't run from trouble, he used it, and he had a plan for part 3. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to see what happens next. The hangar control tower loomed above the chaos like a crooked metal spine. Evan sprinted toward it, weaving through merchants hauling crates, repair drones buzzing frantically, and pirates still slipping helplessly in pink foam behind him. Captain Vraxel screeched in fury, "Stop him! Do not let the human reach that tower." Perfect. Evan thought exactly where he wanted them to chase him. He reached the tower doors, slammed the lock panel, and ducked inside. The interior was cramped, a narrow stairwell spiraling upward toward the control deck. Metal groaned under his boots as he climbed. He could hear the pirates slamming into the locked door below. Good. That would slow them down. He reached the top, burst into the control deck, and nearly crashed into a terrified operator. The small, feathered alien froze, holding a half-eaten cup of noodles. Whatever you want. Human, please don't vaporize me." Evan held up his hands. "Vaporizing is way above my pay grade. I just need access to the bay controls." The operator blinked. "Oh. Then, okay." He scooted aside, still trembling, as Evan slid into the central console. Every ship in the Bazaar's landing zone blinked across the screen: haulers, junkers, luxury skiffs, pirate craft, and one particular shuttle, still flailing in that ridiculous cloud of pink foam. Evan cracked his knuckles. "Let's improve the odds," he typed fast, overriding landing assignments, toggling bay doors, and locking down specific lanes. The system resisted, but human persistence was one of the most underappreciated forces in the known galaxy. After 30 seconds of furious typing, Evan leaned back. "Done." The operator peeked. What did you do?" "Created a maze." Evan replied, "for pirates. Down below." The hangar erupted into pandemonium. Bulkhead doors slammed shut, catwalks retracted, and docking clamps locked themselves unpredictably. Vraxel's crew skidded to a halt, foam dripping from their armor, as a section of the floor dropped to meters, sending them tumbling like bowling pins. One pirate shouted, "Why is the floor moving?" Another screamed, "The human has taken the control tower." The tower's comms panel lit up with incoming calls. Evan answered one. The security chief, the grumpy, four-eyed mammal with an impressive mustache, glared at him. "Human, what in the starless void are you doing in my tower, saving your marketplace from a pirate infestation?" Evan replied cheerfully, "Also, maybe causing mild property damage." "Mild? You've rerouted half our systems, temporarily. Think of it as crowd control." Before the chief could yell more, the tower door behind Evan exploded open. Captain Vraxel barreled through, smoke curling off his car Apache. His crew stumbling behind him. Evan sighed. "You guys really don't know when to quit," the captain shrieked. "You humiliated me twice. I will tear you apart." Evan stepped around the console. Third time's the charm. Vraxel lunged, but humans were small, fast, and most importantly, creative. Evan grabbed the operator's abandoned noodles and flung the hot, sticky broth directly at Vraxel's eyes. The pirate captain bellowed, reeling, mandibles snapping wildly. Evan ducked under a swinging claw and rammed his shoulder into Vraxel's abdomen. The blow didn't do much damage. Bugs were sturdy, but it knocked him off balance. Just enough. Evan grabbed the console's emergency lever and pulled. A ventilation hatch in the tower floor snapped open. An escape chute for technicians. Vraxel slipped nitrogen monoxide and fell. The captain vanished down the chute, screaming the entire way, before landing somewhere in the foam-soaked hangar with a spectacular splat. His crew stared in shock. Evan waved. "Elevators out of order. Try the stairs." He slammed the tower door shut and locked it. The operator stared at him. Feathers puffed out. "Why, you just ejected a pirate captain." "No," Evan corrected. "I relocated him." He checked the console again, with the bay sealed and pirates disoriented. He needed his escape route. A ship caught his eye. A Mark 9 scout frigate, fast, lightly armed, and currently ownerless thanks to customs confiscation. Evan grinned. Beautiful. He enabled its docking clamps and activated the boarding bridge. The operator squeaked, "You're stealing a frigate. I prefer borrowing indefinitely." He headed for the exit hatch leading to the walkway outside. Down below, pirates swarmed in circles, desperately trying to regroup despite slipping, falling, and being periodically hit by moving platforms Evan had set to unpredictable mode. He stepped onto the metal walkway, the wind carrying the shouts of confused pirates. Evan Mercer took a deep breath. Step 3. Get a new ship. He began jogging toward the Mark 9 frigate, because if the pirates thought the shuttle fiasco was humiliating, they had absolutely no idea what Parfer was going to bring. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. The walkway rattled beneath my boots as I sprinted along its narrow length, suspended high over the chaotic bizarre hangar. From up here, I had a perfect view of the pandemonium below, pirates tripping over each other, foam geysers erupting from ventilation shafts, and security drones desperately trying and failing to restore order. A smirk crossed my face. "All this," I muttered, "because they kidnapped the wrong human." Ahead, the Mark 9 scout frigate waited like a sleek predatory bird perched for launch. Matte gray hull, twin thrusters, fully intact cockpit, perfect. I reached the end of the walkway and slapped a control panel for the boarding ramp. With a metallic hiss, the ramp unfolded, but halfway down, it jammed. I just stared. Seriously? The ramp sputtered, jerked twice, and then completely froze at a 45-degree angle. It was climbable but barely. Behind me came the unmistakable sound of an enraged pirate shrieking. I didn't even look back. Right on time, I started climbing the ramp, slipping once, cursing twice, and hauled myself into the frigate's airlock. Just as I hit the inner seal control, 3 plasma bolts zipped past my head, melting holes in the bulkhead behind me. The door slammed shut. I leaned against the wall, finally exhaling. One of these days, I'm going to have a quiet, relaxing kidnapping. Just once. I shook my head and pushed into the cockpit. The interior was dusty, but pristine. Confiscated ships tended to be well maintained, if only because customs officers were bored and liked cleaning things. I slid into the pilot's chair and tapped the console. The ship hummed awake. Lights flickered on, status screens blinked. The engines purred like a satisfied metal tiger below me. The hangar was now bowling with movement. Vraxel's pirates had regained some semblance of order and were now charging toward the tower exit. A few pointed up at the frigate and screamed. I toggled the comms and used the bizarre wide loudspeaker system. "Attention marketplace shoppers. The pirates are having a clearance sale on humiliation. Everything must go, the bazaar erupted. With laughter, the pirates erupted with more screaming. I flipped several switches, time to leave. But, as soon as I activated the thrusters, the entire ship lurched. I frowned and checked the diagnostics. Someone had reinstalled the ship's external lockdown clamps. I looked through the cockpit window. For massive mechanical clamps held the frigate down like stubborn crab claws. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. All right, manual it is. I dashed back to the airlock and emerged onto the partially lowered ramp. At the base of the frigate stood a group of pirates, 8 of them covered in foam, weapons drawn, and absolutely livid. One pointed dramatically, "There he is." I gave a polite little wave, "Hi." Then I jumped off the ramp directly onto a stack of crates below. I hit the boxes hard, pounced, and rolled painfully onto the hangar floor, groaning, "Yep, definitely gonna feel that tomorrow." Plasma shots scorched the ground all around me. I scrambled up and sprinted to the nearest clamp. It was massive, with a control junction welded to its underside. A small panel marked "Access for authorized personnel" only glowed bright red. Guess what? I'm feeling authorized. I ripped the cover off. Inside were 3 thick cables. I jammed my fingers around them, braced myself, and yanked. Electric sparks snapped across the metal. The clamp snapped open. One down. The pirates got closer. I dashed to the second clamp. Shots whizzed over my shoulder. A crate exploded behind me. A foam jet burst sideways as a panicked mechanic fired a hose at random. I slid under the second clamp, ripped off its panel, and yanked the wires. Another shower of sparks. Another clamp release. Halfway there, I muttered through clenched teeth. As I ran toward the third clamp, something heavy slammed into the ground right in front of me. I skidded to a stop. Captain Vraxel rose from the crater, foam dripping off his carapace like melting frosting. His mandibles clicked slowly, deliberately. "Human," he hissed. "I am going to enjoy this." I glanced past him at the third clamp, then at the captain, then back at the clamp. "Can we do this later?" I asked. "I'm kind of on a schedule." Vraxel roared and charged. I dove to the side, rolled, and sprinted for the clamp. The captain lunged but tripped on a puddle of pink foam. He flailed, screeching, and crashed face first into a maintenance cart. Even I winced. Oof, unlucky. I ripped off the third clamp's panel and tore out the wires. Thun. It released. The pirates were nearly on me now, forming a ring. I glanced at the fourth clampway on the opposite side of the frigate. Of course. Always the far one. I bolted. Bolts flew. Shouts echoed. Vraxel screamed in fury behind me. I slid under the final clamp, tore open the panel, grabbed the cables and yanked. The clamp clicked open. The frigate was free. I sprinted for the ramp as the pirates converged. The ramp was still stuck at 45 degrees. I leaped, hit the metal, slipped, caught the lip with one hand, and hauled myself inside just as a dozen plasma bolts scorched the underside of the ramp. I slammed the airlock door shut and ran for the cockpit. The engines roared. The frigate lifted. I grinned fiercely, gripping the controls. Step 4. Make it out alive. The frigate shot upward. Pirate screams vanishing beneath me. Next stop, Part 5. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. The Mark 9 scout frigate rocketed upward, punching through the marketplace's open hangar roof in a burst of thruster flame. Evan held tight to the controls as the ship jolted free of the bazaar's gravity nets below. The pirates' enraged screaming faded into the distance. Evan exhaled and leaned back in the pilot's seat. Finally, a quiet minute. The frigate immediately exploded in a cacophony of warning alarms. Evan flinched. "Can I get one break?" The console flashed bright red. Autocannon tracking lock detected. Missile signatures inbound. Multiple hostiles approaching. He pulled up the rear cam. 6 pirate skiffs burst out of the clouds, foam still dripping from their armor, their engines wheezing angrily as they tore through the sky. Of course they have backup ships. Evan said to himself, of course. The skiffs opened fire, spraying bright plasma bursts at the frigate. The shot sizzled past his cockpit. Evan rolled the ship hard, diving beneath a skiff's firing arc. You guys kidnapped the wrong human, he muttered, flipping a series of switches on the console, and also the wrong engineer. He routed power from the secondary life support loop. Dangerous. Yes, but incredibly efficient. Dumped it straight into the thrusters. The frigate surged forward with a sudden burst of acceleration that snapped Evan back in his seat. Behind him, the pirate skiffs howled in frustration, tried to keep up. Evan taunted. The frigate tore through the atmosphere and broke into open sky, clouds thin. Sunlight flashed across the viewport. Then, a new alarm blared. Captain Vraxel broadcasting on public channel. Evan sighed heavily and opened the comm link. The captain's distorted, furious voice filled the small cockpit. Human, you have stolen from me for the last time. Evan raised an eyebrow. Pretty sure you said that the first time. You will land immediately, Vraxel snarled, and surrender the frigate, or we will shoot you down. Evan considered that for a moment. Pass, this is not a negotiation. It never is with you. Evan replied calmly, but hey, at least you're consistent. He cut the comm. Plasma bolts surrounded him again as the remaining skiffs closed in. Evan scanned the frigate's controls. It wasn't a combat vessel, not in its standard configuration, but it had plenty of utility tools. He selected directional salvage beam, manual override, time to improvise, he muttered. He turned the frigate sharply, putting himself head-to-head with the nearest skiff. The pirate pilot inside screeched in surprise. Evan fired the salvage beam. A bright cone of blue-white energy burst forward. It wasn't a weapon, but a graviton pull field designed for hauling debris. Skiffs weren't debris, but gravity didn't care. The skiff was yanked violently sideways, spiraling out of control and slamming into another pursuing craft. Both exploded in a spectacular fireball. Evan pumped a fist. Science. 4 skiffs remained. They split into formation, flanking him on all sides. Evan muttered, okay, that's bad. He dove into the thick clouds below. The frigate sliced through vapor as the pirates fired blindly into the mist. Evan twisted the ship, sending it spiraling downward until the clouds blurred into a white vortex. He glanced at the altimeter. To low, he grunted. He ripped the ship into a sharp pull-up, G-forces crushing his chest just as a massive mountain peak flashed below. 2 of the skiffs failed to react in time. They slammed straight into the cliff face in twin blossoms of smoke and fire. Evan winced. That's what happens when you don't kidnap responsibly. Only 2 skiffs remained now. He rose back into the open air, leveling out over a vast, silver lake. Sunlight danced across the water. The final 2 skiffs emerged from the clouds behind him, their cannons glowing hot. Evan took a deep breath. All right, last trick. He pushed the frigate low, very low, skimming just meters above the water. The engines kicked up massive sprays on either side like giant wings. The pirates followed, trying to match his altitude. Come on, a little closer. One skiff dipped too far. Its engine intake gulped a massive amount of water. The craft sputtered, coughed, and then exploded in a geyser of white steam. One left, Evan muttered. Captain Vraxel's voice screeched across the radio one last time. You will not escape me, human. Evan smirked. Actually, I will, with style. He angled the frigate upward sharply, engines roaring, climbing straight into the sky. Vraxel followed relentless, furious. At 3,000 meters, Evan cut the engines. The frigate dropped, fast, into a dead free fall. Alarms blared. The wind screamed. The world spun violently as the ship plummeted toward the earth. Vraxel's skiff dove after him, closing the distance. That's it. Take the bait. Evan waited until the pirate was almost on top of him. Then he reignited the engines. The frigate rocketed upward like a launched spear, and Vraxel shot past him, unable to pivot, his momentum carrying him straight downward into the mountains below. Evan winced as a distant boom echoed through the sky. That's gonna be hard to walk off. The radar display cleared. No hostiles. The air quieted, for the first time since he'd been kidnapped. Evan took a deep, unbothered breath. Well, he said, sitting back. That's step 4 done. He tapped the console. Step 5. Figure out what to do with the stolen frigate, he smiled, and set course for the nearest trade hub. Because his journey wasn't over, not even close, Part 6 would finish it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for the next chapter. The Mark 9 scout frigate drifted into the outer lanes of Station Helios 9, one of the largest trade hubs in the sector. Massive rings rotated lazily around a glowing central spire. Docking arms stretching outward like the metal petals of a giant flower, ships of every shape and species came and went, bartering, refueling, smuggling, or pretending not to smuggle. Evan leaned back in the pilot's chair, bruised, exhausted, and very, very done with pirates. The comm crackled to life. This is Helios 9 docking control. Identify vessel. Yeah, hi. Evan replied, his voice heavy with fatigue. This is, the Sunshine Problem. Requesting temporary docking clearance. There was a long pause from the other end. Is that an official ship registry name? It is now. Another pause, even longer this time. Docking approved. Try not to crash into anything. No promises. The frigate slid into docking arm 6D with a gentle thud. Evan popped the airlock and stepped onto the station, inhaling the familiar scent of recycled air. Grilled street food. And about 50 different species loudly arguing about prices. Home sweet home. Well, not exactly home, but it was close enough for now. He made his way toward the nearest vendor district, and there, just as he expected, the news had already beaten him to it. Merchants were whispering. Bounty boards flicker with fresh updates. A massive holo newscast played overhead. Vraxel pirate syndicate eliminated after chase gone wrong. Lone human suspected. Evan passed under the screen, shaking his head. Suspected. Come on, he muttered to himself. At least commit to the accusation. He needed credits. He needed repairs. He needed a shower. And he probably needed about 12 hours of straight unconsciousness. But first, business. He found a small, dusty office with a flickering neon sign that read, Gragax and SONS Ship Brokers. Nitrogen monoxide questions asked. Perfect. He entered. Inside stood a thick-furred Uloran with forearms and a permanent expression of bored disappointment. Welcome, the broker droned. Not looking up. What stolen ship are you selling today? Evan raised a hand. Wow, right to the point. How? This is Doc 6D, the broker replied flatly. Everyone here is selling stolen ships. Fair point, Evan admitted. It's a Mark 9 scout frigate. Good condition. Mostly, the broker's eyes widened slightly. A Mark 9. Those are rare. How'd you get it? Hard work, determination, and a healthy dose of petty revenge. A traditional method. He gestured for Evan to follow him to the inspection bay. The two walked toward the frigate as Gragax inspected it with a professional, judgmental squint. Minimal hull trauma. Thrusters are functional. Cockpits intact. No illegal modifications, except that salvage beam wiring. Human. Did you reroute this yourself? Yes. It is both ingenious and absolutely unsafe, correct? The broker scribbled on a datapad. I can offer you 40,000 credits. Evan blinked. 40,000. This ship is worth at least triple that. Yes, the broker agreed calmly. But your unique modifications reduce its structural integrity. I am counting exactly here. A whole lot. Evan groaned. Fine. 50. 45. Deal. They shook hands. Suriev. Gragax's, one of Evan's. As the credits transferred, Evan sagged with relief. One last question, Gragax said, his tone unchanged. You weren't followed, right? Evan hesitated, and right on cue, the station's emergency sirens blared to life. Unregistered vessel entering dock lane, unknown signature. All security units, to station ring 3. Evan stared at the ceiling in disbelief. It better not be. Who I think it is, he sprinted to a viewport, through the glass. A battered pirate cargo hauler limped into the station's perimeter, its hull cracked and smoke pouring from its engines. The front plating was dented inward from what looked suspiciously like a high-velocity mountain. Impact, Gragax squinted. Is that a pirate ship? Evan whispered. No way he survived that. Then the comm broadcast came through. Screeching with static and pure fury, this is Captain Vraxel. I demand to speak to the human. Evan slapped a hand over his face. You have got to be kidding me. Station security surrounded the pirate hauler instantly. Towering mechs armed their cannons. Officers shouted warnings. A dozen stun turrets locked onto the vessel. Vraxel stumbled out of the airlock, one antenna bent sideways, still dripping with dried foam from some earlier misadventure. He lifted a claw and shrieked, Human, you will pay for. A stun turret fired, with a soft asterisk thwomp asterisk. Vraxel dropped like a laundry bag, full of forks. The entire dock erupted in spontaneous applause. Evan gave a little wave at the unconscious pirate. Hey, Captain, nice of you to drop in. Security mechs clanked over. Human, do you know this individual? Evan considered his options carefully. Never seen him in my life. The mechs dragged Vraxel away, still twitching. Evan exhaled. Long and slow. Finally, peace. Gragax returned, handing him a small datapad. Your payment is processed. Pleasure doing business. Please do not lead pirates in my office again. No guarantees. Evan said with a grin. He left the docking bay, credit chip in hand, feeling a profound sense of satisfaction. He had escaped captivity, stolen multiple ships, sold one back to the pirates, humiliated a pirate captain, and survived being hunted across an entire planet. Not bad for a week he hadn't planned. As he stepped onto the transit walkway, Evan muttered to himself, They really did kidnap the wrong human. He smirked. Wonder who'll make that mistake next.